Okay, so the problem is that I mistakenly placed the factory in the default package, which I did mean. So hopefully I can just drag and drop it over here so that everything can be refactored. So there were some warning messages along the way as I was doing this work, but I didn't pay attention to them. Okay, so I just dismissed them. So this time it's time to finish the work, right? So this is what we have so far. So one more time. This time the breaks, since I'm returning specific type of object, the breaks become unreachable statements, so I need to get rid of them in my switch statement. And so hopefully this time everything should be fine. So let's build this again. Okay, so this time everything's okay. All right, so no big deal. I relocated my creation of weekdays and weekends into a separate method, and the benefit of it is that now supposedly it's easier to create specific instances of the time slot, right? Because we have this time slot factory which can create everything. Now I can also do something like this and introduce an array of time slots. Say I have I may create a time slot array of time slot prototypes that I can use in the creation, in the process of creation. For instance, if I say time slot and make it an array of 2 time slots, I'll call these prototypes, and I will initialize them with a new weekday, since this is this will be a private static set of prototypes. I just use inline, I'll say just new weekday. Okay, and also new weekend. So I'll just use these for, let me resize this because it's hard to see everything that I do. Okay, so I'll just use two prototypes right here. Of course, the start hour again I will use as perhaps these parameters, right? So just some sort of hard-coded set of parameters to begin with, but this will be just the prototypes which I need to construct it with. So I'll use 8 to 5 type of start and end time slots for my prototype objects, and 0 for employee ID. All right. So over here, I could actually add some useful constants, right? So for instance, I could say public static int, and actually make it also final. Final, say default start hour, right? And initialize it with 8, which is 8 a.m. Right, so that stands for a.m. And likewise, default end hour. Default end hour can be 17, which represents 5 p.m. right here. And so instead of these hard codings, I can do the defaults. Default start hour, default end hour. So this will improve the readability of my code right there, right? And likewise, I can use the same type of stuff over here. Now, 0 can also be replaced by a constant such as yet another public static final constant, right, which may be default, or we can say that this is an unknown employee ID, and it equals 0. Okay, and so instead of 0, unknown employee ID would be something we can initialize it to begin with. So construct the weekday and the weekend, 2 time slots with some defaults, and keep time slot prototypes in the system, right? So this what this may help me with is that configuration of each time slot could be using increasing number of parameters. So sometimes it's useful to organize a set of prototypes, and then instead of saying new, only adjust existing object with a separate set of parameters. So we'll just say in this method that creates new time slots in different types based on the day of week, right? We're just switching on the day of week, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, and so forth, right? So instead, replace this new also by something that we can say, by the way, let's add 2 more constants here, another 2 integers. We can say that weekday prototype is 0 index, and the weekend prototype is 1. Okay, so these will represent this prototype and this prototype accordingly, right? So we can say instead of doing this as new right here, so instead we'll be returning what we'll be returning from create slot, essentially ask prototypes, right? Ask the prototype with this time it's a weekday, right? Weekday is right here. Weekday prototype is prototype number 0, and call its method. We can add a method that says clone, right? We can clone the prototype with a specific set of parameters. So clone will be a new method that will be adding to our prototype. And so this is yet another possibility here that we can use. Instead of just creating new objects, we could use the prototype as long as we can clone the prototype and readjust its parameters, right? So again, this is getting a bit long in terms of the length of my code over here, so it's a little hard to see, so I'm just going to move the stuff to the new line in order to be able to deal with this lengthy code. right? So let's add the clone method to our prototypes, right? So we can start with the time slot, right? So again, I added some constants to the time slot factory. You should begin to see that time slot factory is a pretty useful object, actually class, which only has static methods, but it's a great placeholder for all of these default constants, placeholder for prototypes of time slots, because I can create them once and just slightly tweak their parameters after creating them the first time, right? And then use the prototypes, instead of saying new, use the prototypes to ask them to clone themselves with a specific set of parameters that is being asked by the, by the application. Okay, so let's see. Let's add this clone method. First, we need to add it to the time slot, right? To the set of operations. So we will say time slot. It's going to be public method that returns the time slot. Okay, and we'll name method clone. Okay. What we're going to do is that we're going to say, right now I'm just going to, I guess, make it abstract, right? Because this will be a method delegated to the actual object. So we can keep the abstract methods next to each other right here. And just do my source format to adjust all of the formatting that is going on over here. Okay, so the actual clone implementation will have to be done inside the weekend, right? Inside the weekend, we're going to have the actual implementation of clone right here. All right, at this point, what I'm going to do is just return the new time slot. I know that I'm moving a little fast here, so if you try to code alongside with me, I'll show you all the code after I just add this method. Return new time slot, which will take basically we can at this point, I'll just use these parameters the same way the constructor is using them for the sake of demonstration, just so that I have something to compile with. Public clone new this is going to be returning the weekend. I'm sorry, new weekend right here. Okay, new weekend. So make a copy of itself, and of course it's just going to take these parameters to, as the clone will take these parameters, and then just make a few more adjustments here. Weekend time slot equals new weekend, and then say time slot equals time slot dot day a week. Day a week equals this day a week. What this does, it preserves the current day a week, which was already given to the prototype, supposedly, right? So this is my clone method, and I think I need to add these parameters add these parameters to the time slot because we decided to clone with parameters right here, and all I need to do is actually copy this clone method, to return time slot, right? Something like that. And now just basically copy this method over to the weekday class, which is supposed to also implement all abstract methods, right? So copy and paste, and just simply adjust the weekday over here. So my intention here is to give you an example of using prototypes in the system. So let me check whether I can compile it with all the changes that I made, and then we will stop and revisit every part here so that everybody can keep up with what I'm trying to do. So let me just build this, which supposedly builds fine, right? And if I run it, it still produces the same result. So let's see. So let me stop this recording now, and we can go over the code. And of course, I will be posting the sample this weekend so that you can get an exact copy of what I have.